Hola everyone and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Science Chat Show. Today, in the next theme of the Science Chat Show, which is careers in research industry, we have with us a very active and prominent researcher who has gotten into industry, switching her work profiles from an academic career, Dr. Nivedita Basu with us. Welcome Nivedita and thank you so much for agreeing to do an episode for the Science Chat Show.
Hi, Navjot. I think the pleasure is all mine. So, currently I work as an yield analysis and engineer in Intel, and before that, I did my PhD from IISc Bangalore, and then I moved to Ireland as a postdoctoral researcher, and finally shifted to industry. And, in my free time, I love to spend time in nature. I love biking. I love running, anything adventurous or, outdoorsy. And I love to read a lot as well. And I write a bit, doodle a bit. So that's more or less me. And yeah.
Okay. For my viewers, when she said that I write a bit, that's Nivedita being modest because if you go on to her LinkedIn, you'll find a lot of motivating and informative posts for PhD scholars and people who are researchers or are planning to get into the field of research. So I encourage you to go through the content that she creates, and I'll provide a link in the description box below. And now that you've briefly talked about yourself and your likings and a little about your educational background, can you tell our audience more about your childhood, what parts of the world you grew in, and what kind of education did you have, and then what were the motivations that then made you go for higher education, a master's degree, and then a PhD?
So basically, I grew up in a small town in West Bengal. I was born in Calcutta, which is present Kolkata. And then we as a family shifted to a small town, which is around 3 hours from Kolkata because of my mom's job. And I had a very modest upbringing, simple, clutter-free. And my parents were always, trying to make me and my brother understand the importance of education, like not necessarily topping the class or becoming a doctor or engineer, but they used to convey this message that since we have a humble family background, like we come from a middle class family, education will allow us to go a step further, grow in life, etc. So and then my mom was, also very keen on getting us into extracurricular activities. Like she used to work like 8-9 hours a day. And then like she used to, with a smiling face, drop me to all these dance classes and sports practices. So she always used to say, life is much more than just studying or, just going to school. Like you should do this and that. So yeah, I had an active childhood. And happy and modest childhood. And then in my family, like there was never this pressure of doing great in school, but they always used to say that you should understand what you're doing or grasping what you're doing. And my father was very so according to my father, there are like two kinds of people in this world: people who understands mathematics or loves mathematics, and people who doesn't love mathematics. So he was very focused on maths. So we grew up doing maths and then probably loving it as well, me and my brother. So there was a lot of discussion around maths. And so I mean, even if they did not say that you have to do science, but because of how we were made to grow up, we kind of had an inclination towards science. But I, like, to be honest, wanted to be a journalist. I was not really interested in science. And I kind of wanted to become like, Barkha Dutt reporting from
Great.
Yeah, so I had that kind of motivation. And so when I was 16, I said that I don't want to study science. And my dad was like, I don't care what you study as long as you're good at what you're doing, right? So I went to school and I wanted to get enrolled in humanities, and and like this was the school where like I studied for say 12 years, 15 years actually. So from my childhood, right? So everybody kind of knew me and I knew everybody. It was like family. So I went to the cashier who knew me very well, and then he was like, you cannot get enrolled in humanities. I'm like, why not? And he's like, you just go talk to the principal. And then I went and spoke to my principal, and he said that, you know, you will have enough time to study humanities, but just for the sake of the 11th and 12th, just study science, just know science a little bit more. And then you can always, you know, move to humanities. But if you choose humanities now, you cannot move back to science. So that's how Indian education works, right? Like if you have humanities, you cannot get a say a bachelor's degree in physics, but if you are studying science, you can still get a bachelor's degree in English. So I did not have the required amount of money to get enrolled in science, because science had lab fees as well. So he gave the extra money and he said, just get enrolled in science. So that's how I ended up doing science in my boards, 11th and 12th. And then what happened in my board results was that I scored really well in maths and physics, and I did not do so well in English. I don't know why.
That's where I see the dream of journalism sort of being affected.
Yeah, and you really have to, so how it works in West Bengal, I don't know in other states, is that if you have to get enrolled in humanities after science, right, you really need to have good marks in your humanities subject. Even if I had a good total percentage, but then I didn't have good marks in the humanities subject, and that kind of crushed my dreams. And my mom was like, this is a sign that you're not meant to.
This is nature's way of telling you.
Yeah. So then I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I just got enrolled in physics, just like that, with no real motivation or passion. So first year went by and I really scored poorly in my first year, because it's very hard for me, to do something when I'm not really passionate about it. That has been me since childhood. So then in the second year, I kind of started liking the optics part of the physics. And then in third year, there was quantum mechanics, which I really, really loved. And, that was kind of a turning point, because then I got really passionate about physics. And then, and my marks were not that great in bachelor's. And but then I was like, I have to do a master's, because now I like this subject.
Now I know what I like in physics.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of like, my journey till bachelor's.
Great. And then you enrolled for a PhD at IISc after your master's.
Yeah.
So can you spill some beans on the PhD project that you were working on? What was the kind of research that you were doing, and what were the kind of problems that you were solving?
So I joined PhD with the sole, purpose of working on biosensors. So, in my master's, I read this article on CMOS sensors being used for measuring the, blood pressure and blood flow. That kind of got me very interested in biosensors. So I joined IISc to really work on biosensors. And if you have an idea of sense, right, like it's a very good lab for working on CMOS technology. So you have this entire clean room in sense, where you can just fabricate all these fancy devices. So so the facility in sense and everything, that just kind of motivated me to work on biosensors, which will be fabricated using CMOS technology. So my PhD started with the problem statement that I will be detecting microRNA with a CMOS device. But then obviously probably everybody knows that PhD problems keep shifting, right?
Yeah.
So for the first year, I kind of worked on a new material, platinum oxide, which I used as the sensing material for detecting DNA. And then then the other aspect of my work was making it affordable and which can be produced in mass, because my idea was I'm going to make a prototype and then patent my research kind of. So we were looking for mass production and then afford technology. So one of the other aspects of my work was using flexible substrates. So then it was like the problem statement shifted to detecting biological signals using printed and flexible electronics. And then we kind of studied platinum oxide, which gave us good results. So then part of my research was material science. So I did characterization of platinum oxide for a year.
Okay.
And then again, we shifted gear and we worked on gold DNA sensors. So I studied the chemistry of DNA interaction with gold. So that was again another dimension of my research. And then I don't know if you know, so I was a project assistant for 6 months in IISc before joining PhD. So because IISc PhD sessions only happen in August, right?
Yeah.
So I finished my master's in January. So there was a 6-month gap. So during that time, I joined IISc as project assistant. So during that time, I worked on silicon nanowires, and I was under the same supervisor as well. So then in my PhD, we thought, why not use silicon nanowires to detect DNA sensors, detect DNA molecules. So basically, if you look at my PhD work, it was mostly detecting DNA, but we use different kind of platforms, different materials, different substrates. So it was about DNA sensing, and then we did build a prototype which could detect HPV virus. So that was so it was like a lot of things all put together.
Yeah. And that's how usually PhD projects are. I mean, there's one main direction that you're following, but then these small projects keep budding from here and there, and then you sort of diversify eventually.
Exactly.
I think probably from your second or third year onwards.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I think I finished the first part of my work very fast, within a year. So all these projects started in the second year. And it kept happening.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the other additional information I can add here is that now IISc has 2 sessions. So you can take admissions either in the July session or January session. Yeah, but the convention ones, mostly people come in the July-August session. And there are a few admissions that happen in the January session. So viewers who are watching and are, students who might be finishing in January, they probably can also apply for the January sessions
now. Okay. That's a good change.
Yeah. Because then you could use those 6 months as in your degree.
Exactly. You can finish your coursework or something.
Yeah. Cool. So now that we have talked about your PhD research and you have honestly shared the journey of how projects evolve over the years of your PhD, my question would be, what were your expectations? If you look back today, when you joined a PhD program, what were your expectations from a PhD program?
Right.
How much of those you think were fulfilled? And in retrospect, what are your top 3 learnings from your PhD experience?
Right. So, well, I mean, even when I was thinking of doing PhD, I always wanted to, do something novel, patent it, and start my own company, just like just like my supervisor did. So that was my motivation, anyways. And when I joined IISc, that was the same kind of motivation. and which obviously did not get fulfilled because my supervisor got interested in something else. So, that I mean, that was primarily my motivation. But then, while I was doing my PhD, I kind of realized that PhD is not what you think in your head. PhD is how it will be. A lot of things won't go according to your motivation or according to your plans, but you have to be proactive and try to kind of fulfill those motivations. So then probably in my third year of PhD, I realized that, okay, what I aspired for is not going to happen. So I changed my aspirations. I was like, if I can't open my company, I'll work for a company. So I think in my third year, Navkant went for sabbatical, and so for a year. So that was my time when I thought, this is like great opportunity to venture out as a collaborate outside. And then I applied for Raman-Charpak Fellowship, and then I got the fellowship, and then I was in France for 10 months. And then I kind of got to know that, that even in France, like it's not just India, even in France, your PhD will be as good as your supervisor wants it to be, like, so that was a learning that it's okay. It's not just in India, it happens everywhere. So then I came back, and I worked a bit on, on another new material. And then I think there were like me and my supervisor, we were planning to, add to what I was doing. But then in 2017, I had to go for a surgery, which is, so it's like a ACL surgery on both my knees. And the recovery time was around, 6 to 8 months to walk and, walk properly and go about doing research and all that. So, I mean, in lab, because most of my research was, experimental. So yeah. So then I spoke to my supervisor, and we decided to just wrap up. So we didn't kind of finished how we wanted to finish, but yeah, then I finished. And so my 3 learnings from PhD is that it's a long game. So and things can change very rapidly, and not all motivations will be met. So it is best to see PhD as a learning experience where you kind of acquire a lot of skills, and then you use it accordingly. And the second thing that I learned from PhD is that perseverance is the key. I mean, in PhD and even in life, not everything will go according to the plan, and you cannot plan, okay, I'll work very hard and finish my PhD in 3 years. Doesn't happen that way. So you should pace yourself, as in you should work hard, but then not burn yourself out as well. So pace it. And the third thing, which is very important, is that you shouldn't just focus on your research. You should understand that when you're doing your PhD, it might look like this is your whole life, as in writing papers, doing research, and talking about research. That's your entire life. But it's not, and you should pursue a hobby. You should, if you have a hobby, pursue that. Or if you don't, just go out there and do something else other than research, just so that you don't burn yourself. So I was in IISc for 6 years, right? My PhD was 6 years long, actually slightly more than 6 years if you count first day to last day. So so if I would have constantly focused on my research, or constantly talking about what I am not getting right or what is not happening right to me, I would have probably gone into depression by so what I did was, instead of talking about this is not going well or that is not going well, I started doing other stuff. So that kind of took my mind away from what was not happening right in my PhD, and that kind of helped me survive, 6.5 years. So
I'm so happy that you've emphasized on these points so well, because there are some other videos on my channel that I post about how the initial shock, the academic level, the rigor of the degree could sort of lead to mental health issues, and how it's so important to address them and be aware of them.
yeah,
So I'm glad that you're coming out and sort of giving your testimony and, sort of adding to the list of that, yes, this is true, this has happened, and you have to take care of it.
right.
And you very beautifully also talked about the kind of aspirations you had, and then realizing during the phase that probably these aspirations are probably too ambitious or not realistic, or at least they're not going to be true. So many a times when students get that shock, there are times when people lose their mental balance or go into depression or take even extreme steps. We have heard stories about people losing their lives even in IISc. So what were those skills or thought process that helped you adjust your aspirations rather than being demotivated, demoralized, and sort of going into a negative space? Was there some conscious effort that you did?
I mean, as you know, like, I write a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I remember in my first year of PhD, right? Like, and I was very ambitious as well. And I was like, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that. I am kind of that. So, I did my coursework and my lab work together in my first year. And so I was like, I have to do this, like, and I have to finish my PhD in 3 years. I can't spend more than that. I had to open my company and that. So basically, the first year was, I was doing this, doing that, and then my supervisor is super busy. Like, I don't know about him now, but he was super busy back then. I sent him a manuscript of my work within my first year. And and it was taking, like, obviously he was busy with other stuff, and like, he has a lot of collaborations and a lot of administrative work as well, right? So he didn't get time to correct it, right? And I was like, what the, like, and then but the good thing about me is that and thanks to my mother, since she, had gotten me to learn so many of extracurricular activities, like, I always had avenues to,
relieve your stress.
Relieve my stress, right? So I was like, okay, like, he's not checking my manuscript. This is taking too long. So what should I do? And then I started writing. And in my second year, I published my first novel. So,
oh, great.
So I'm very good that way. Like, if something doesn't go right, instead of, fretting about it, I always try to find an avenue. And then in my third, my entire PhD journey was very slow, because obviously my supervisor was super busy all the 6 years that I was there. So in my third year, when he went for sabbatical, right, like, I knew things would be extra slow, because obviously right now he's not officially in the office, so he can just not see my mail for more than, say, 3-4 months. So then I got the fellowship, the Raman-Charpak Fellowship, and I went to France. And once you are in Europe, you can, like, really visit, countries. And I love traveling. So then during Raman-Charpak Fellowship, I traveled a lot. Like, and I probably traveled 17, 18 countries during that 10 months.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I was like, every time there was, a setback in my research career, I always found avenues. And then when I came back from Paris, things were again slow as usual. So I started, I took up running. And I started doing marathons, and then I started working as a trek lead in one of the Bangalore mountaineering groups. And I always had lots of stuff other than research. Like I'm lucky that way. So I always found other avenues to, grow, to learn, because one thing that I kind of I don't know how it happened, but I kind of knew that research is not, the one thing in life. You can, like, I always had that confidence in me. If this is failing, I in some way I can make up for it. So I always knew that, PhD is just a PhD, like, just a degree, and life is much more than a PhD. And so every time there was a setback, I wouldn't be like, oh no, this is not happening. I would do something else. So that way I always had a good balance between research and non-research activities.
Awesome. I mean, this short sort of wisdom sharing is inspiring to me as well. So I'm going to take away two messages from here. If things are not working, find new avenues. And I think that's an important life skill, not just for anyone who's doing a PhD, but if a relationship's not working, if a job's not working, if things in your family are not working, find avenues to make it work, or make other things work, and then get back to it to solve your problems.
And go on.
No, go ahead.
No, so like just the short incidents that happened during my PhD was, so I was very good friends with one of my seniors. She was like, she joined a year before me. And we were kind of working on biosensors. She was working on, neurosensing and microneedles and all of that. But yeah, we had a kind of similar research project, and then we were very good friends as well, right? And I remember, so this was my 5th year, her 6th, and like, she was like, I just want to leave PhD, and she did, and she said that I told her that, why are you leaving? Like, just write something, just finish it, because you have given 5 years. And she was very hardworking, and she was very good at what she was doing. And she said one thing which has stuck to me. And she said, the most important thing in life is happiness. I don't think PhD, the degree, is worthy enough of taking that happiness away from me. So, it's better to be. And that is a very good, a sentence, that, happiness is the biggest thing in life. If you're not happy, it doesn't mean that you gave 5 years to PhD, so you have to like get the degree. It's okay. So I just wanted to share that, because a lot of people go mad over getting the degree. So for me, it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like 4 or 5 years in life doesn't matter, because we're all going to live like 80, 90 years.
Yeah. So. Okay. And the second learning, which is in line with the incident that you have shared, is that have faith that I have the capabilities to make things work. Yeah. So even if it's not my PhD that's working, there'll be other things that I can make work. And let's look at them positively. And again, let's create those avenues and look at them. So thank you. Yeah.
No problem. And yeah, you are absolutely right. Have faith in yourself. I think that's very important.
Great. Now that we have gotten into this intense chat about PhD and PhD lives and aspirations and expectations, another crucial stage of a PhD comes where you're close to graduation and you're making this call of whether to get into academics, continue in academics, or get into industry. Mm-hmm. I am in a period of submitting my PhD thesis, so I am going through all of these thoughts right now. So it'll also be, knowledge sharing for me as well. But yeah, how did you decide that you wanted to go for a postdoc, and then you went for a postdoc and eventually made a shift to the industry? Mm-hmm. So what were the kind of thoughts that you had? How did you make your decisions? And with my experience, I've felt that all of this thought and all of this confusion and lack of clarity builds a lot of anxiety and pressure for you.
Right.
So, did you have the same experience? And if you did, how did you handle it?
Right. Um, to be honest, like I was very clear that I wouldn't be in academia, like so, and that was from the beginning of my PhD. I always knew that eventually I'll shift to industry. Like so, I mean, initially my idea was open my company, but then when I knew that that's not going to happen, I always knew that I'm going to shift to industry anyways. So the problem with my PhD work is that it's not completely biology, obviously because my background is not biology. So it was just, detection of biological signals. And then it's not completely, microprocessors or, semiconductor physics. So it was like a multidisciplinary work, right? So, and and that's the reason why it was very hard for me to get a job, especially in India, right? Because firstly, there are no semiconductor manufacturing company in India, right? Semiconductor manufacturing doesn't happen. So so my two options after my PhD was, work in a biosensors company. But in India, most of the biosensor companies are electrochemical based, which is like more chemistry or, biology oriented sensors. And even abroad, like it's not that things are not only happening in India, even abroad, biosensors are a very, niche area, because not a lot of companies invest in it, because obviously companies invest in something that generate revenues, right? Like, so, big companies, semiconductor companies like Intel or Analog or TSMC, they all, do manufacturing for, say, all these microprocessors that's not involved in biological detections. So firstly, it was hard to get a job in India with my kind of background. And the other thing was, I knew that I don't want to teach in, like, even like, I'm not just talking about academia research wise, but even like, say I got a position in IIT, some of the smaller IITs, right? So there would be like, teaching involved in that process. So that was completely off. Like, even if I didn't get anything, I wouldn't do that. So,
Okay.
and the job market was very limited in India. And I mean, people who worked on different projects in PhD in IISc, they had jobs after their, PhD. So I wouldn't say that it is hard for everybody to find a job in India,
Mm-hmm.
but it was hard for me given my, background and then PhD work and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason why I applied for postdoc abroad, because the other thing is you cannot directly get a job abroad, like very rarely, unless you have a very good network. So
Okay.
say somebody from IISc and you are very good friends with him or her, and then they are working somewhere abroad and there's a vacancy there, all these chances.
Yeah, yeah.
So otherwise it's very hard to get a job abroad. Like, they kind of resist. I don't know why, because probably because of the visa situation, or
Mm-hmm.
probably they don't trust Indian PhDs. I don't know, but it's hard to get a job like that. So I thought the best way is to apply for a postdoc and then build, a network where in whichever country I get the postdoc in, and then shift
Mm-hmm.
industry. So there was a solid plan there.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Okay.
so, and the postdoc position that I got in Ireland, in Tyndall National Institute, even in the interview, I said, like, do you work on industrial projects? And they said, yeah, like, we have huge collaboration with the industry. So that was like a huge motivation for me to come to Ireland and join this institute as a postdoctoral fellow, because I knew that would open up the
Got it.
industrial
Yeah.
avenue for me. And then so as a postdoctoral researcher, I was working with Analog Devices. I was working on their project. So
Okay.
that kind of, opened up my chances of moving to industry. And
Nice.
also, like, in Ireland, I don't know if a lot of people know, but in Ireland, since it's a English speaking country, like, their native language is Irish, but all like nobody speaks.
Everyone knows English.
Yeah, everyone knows and speaks in English, like, so nobody speaks in Irish.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of American companies like MNCs, or they prefer Ireland, because in other parts of Europe they have their own language,
Language
or
issues.
yeah. So that's why in Ireland, once you come to Ireland, and since it's a small country with a small population, there's a huge chance like that you can shift to industry. All the big companies are here in Ireland, and it's relatively easier actually to shift to industry, because even the PhDs in Ireland, they are more industrial research oriented. So I was lucky that way, that I came to a country which had this culture anyways.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you're touching upon these points, because and I want the viewers to see that there was a solid thought process that went behind making all of these decisions and choices and figuring out all these details, because
and I think it's extremely important. I mean, you cannot just do your PhD and think everything is going to happen. Like it's really tough on the other side, like after you dig. So you need to have a solid plan, and I keep writing posts on LinkedIn, like you said, about the same thing. A lot of people just think that, okay, I'm doing my research, I get my degree, I become a doctor, and things will be great. But to be honest, like even like, I don't know about probably US is a bit different, because in US, like you have a lot of PhDs, and there is a structure for PhDs to go into industry. But in other countries, like as in Europe, like nobody really cares about your degree. Like it's all about the skills that you have, or how good you are at a job. So even PhDs are treated as freshers in Europe. So you need to have a solid plan, to be honest. Like if you want to shift to academia after your PhD, I think you need to have a more solid plan if you want to shift to academia after, because you need to have network, you need to have good publication. So if you want to move to academia, you really have to be very focused from probably the first or second year, that because it's a sad thing. But in India, like they put a lot of stress. So if you're looking for academic position in India, they will put a lot of stress on your, publication history.
Publication record.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Like, and so that's why you have to like kind of really focus on publication from the very beginning.
Great. And as I asked, how full of anxiety and stress was all of this period, and deciding to go for a postdoc and making these solid A plans that you had, and then being anxious of whether these plans would work or not. So I think all of that, at least for me, has been adding quite a lot of anxiety. And I think the biggest factor is not knowing whether it's going to work or not, or whether it's going to happen or not. And then being anxious of, okay, I'm going to make this choice, but how is it going to turn out to be? So
I think,
so what was your emotional state? What was your mental state? And then how did you handle that?
Right. So I like even after my so I submitted my thesis, and then the report came out the corrections came out very fast, right? So 1.5 months, I think, and then my defense took much longer to be conducted after. So all this, like the whole entire period was around, I would say 10-11 months, almost a year. And I used to send applications. Probably I sent like 1,000 applications literally to all these jobs and postdocs, and I scored a couple of interviews, but yeah, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, to be honest with you. And the entire process, I had to do it on my own. I mean, some people might have some people have supervisors who help, or they have a network, or stuff like that. But I didn't, and so yeah. I mean, but again, like I did not expect it to be easy. So that kind of helped me, because I wasn't thinking that, oh, I got a PhD, now people will take me. Like I knew that it'll be tough, and then I so I was applying for a lot of jobs abroad, and I wasn't getting a reply. And then I realized that maybe there's something wrong with my CV, as in how I am writing my CV. So then I used that time, to know how to write industrial CVs. And then even in that 10 months, like I knew that, so I always had faith in me, like you said, and it's very important. And I always knew that I will get something. Maybe it'll, come in 4 months, 6 months, 10 months, but I knew I will get something at the end of this. So with that thought, like I always invested in other stuff as well. Like I said, I started working as a trek lead for a Bangalore Mountaineering Club. And then I used to think that this is the only time that is completely free. Like, so I used to travel a lot as well, like, and obviously my money was getting over. But like I used to do the small trips with very less money. But I always used to, do something or the other, because, and like, one is I always had faith that I'll get something, because I have that capability, I have the skill sets, and that kept me motivated. And secondly, I knew that this process is not going to be easy. And I mean, sometimes, you have your supervisor, like your supervisor collaborates with somebody, and then you can, go as postdoc in their lab. So some people get it easy, but then for me, I knew I'm not going to get it easy. So these are the two things that, kept me going for the 10 months.
Great. I hope our viewers and everyone who follows your posts or follows the channels finds motivation in your words and in your story, and they realize that this is not an experience of one or two students. This is how it works for most of the PhDs. Exactly. And that is why setting their expectations right from the beginning. Yeah. As you said, since you knew that it's not going to be easy, it was difficult for you to give up at any point. Yeah. But if you had a perception in your mind that, oh, I'm going to get a PhD, and then at the end on the day of my thesis defense, there'll be a list of jobs lined up for me. Yeah. Then that expectation burden sort of takes you down when things don't go the way you were expecting them to. Yeah. So again, thanks a lot for being honest and candid, and talking open-heartedly about everything that I've been through.
Like I feel like there's no other way other than being honest. Like
yeah. Cool. I have probably two last questions on my list now. One is that now that you've seen both sides of the coin, academic research and industrial research, how do you compare the two environments in two aspects? One is the quality of research that's done, and eventually where that research goes. Sometimes in the academic environment, you do something and that lands up in a publication, but then never goes anywhere. Right. And many a times things also do. So professors have spin-offs, students have spin-offs, and they start their companies. Yeah. So one is the technical aspect. And second is the personal satisfaction aspect, as to if you're in academics and doing your job, and if you're in industry and doing your research. I think I agree that it will be dependent on person to person and what they want from their lives. But given you are the person we are talking to, how satisfactory it has been on the personal level as well.
Well, for me, I think like the industrial side of things, like, I don't know, maybe in India it's different, but here I think it's much better, like as in the industrial side of it. I find navigating through the industrial way of things much easier, because it's all, set. Like as in, you are a certain level, you work hard, you go to next level, and then, you become a principal engineer. It's all like, it's like a rule, especially in Intel, like it's all set. So I find it much easier to navigate, to go through one grade to another, much easier. And like, I am a hard, like, when I like something, I'll give 100% to it, like, and so I am hardworking. So I find this structure much easier, rather than, in academia, you have to depend on whether a person likes you or not, and all that complications. Like,
but doesn't that happen in corporate too? Like, you have hierarchy of managers, right? And if they don't like
that's
you,
what I'm saying. Like, I don't know about India, but here, like, that
kind of,
that kind of culture is not there. Like,
Got it.
it's a very easygoing place to work in. And I was in analog devices as well in Ireland, and now I'm in Intel. And in both companies, I have seen that, that kind of culture is not there. People talk about corporate, right? But
Yeah.
I don't see any corporate here.
Okay.
I felt like IISc had more corporate culture than so.
I feel really happy for you right now.
So yeah, I mean, so for me, like I am like, I feel like I'm in the best place in terms of, like you
Work
work
culture.
hard, you go up. Like that's very, that's how it works here. Like there's no kind of there. I mean, I wouldn't say that politics, but there are people who doesn't like someone, and then there the other people like that is always there. Like some people will like someone, some people will, but as such, I haven't kind of faced politics as of yet in the industrial thing. And in terms of research, like you said, right? Like some of the academic research. They don't find fruitful ways, right? And I feel that is such a waste, isn't it, of time, of money, of talent, right? So honestly, personally, I would love to see everybody working on something that really contributes to the present world. So in industry, I wouldn't say the research is brilliant, because they only do research on avenues that will generate revenues, right? Whereas in academia, like you can work on, making humans fly, which again is a waste of time. So I wouldn't say the research in academia is bad or research in industry is bad. They are differently oriented. But I personally would love to see both of that converge. That would probably be the best
An
possible.
ideal world.
Yeah, ideal world, in an ideal world. So yeah, in terms of research, I wouldn't say academia or industry is better. It's just that they have different goals out of it. But one thing that I like about industrial research is that when you're working on something, it is going to come out as an outcome, as a product or as a technology. It is going to see the light of the day, right? So I like that feeling that
Yeah.
like you have worked so hard on something and it just goes out there. And I mean, it might be a gaming PlayStation, but at least it's seeing the light of the day, so
Yeah.
so for me, I think like industrial research is more satisfying, because it's going out there and doing something. So but people have different aspirations and motivations. I know, like one of my friends, he says that I love to publish, I like to see my name on that paper. I'm like, okay. So different people have different
Yeah.
aspirations, right? So
Yeah.
and in industry, like for myself, like I do like not like really going to the lab kind of research, but we are constantly trying to make something work better. So that's our research, like. But I mean, we wouldn't publish, or there won't be publication. So for somebody, that would be like a bad thing that you're not
Yeah.
publishing. And so it depends. But for me, I think like in terms of atmosphere, I feel much better in the industrial set of things. And like I mean, even in India, right? So like I don't know about the IT companies, but a lot of my friends work in the semiconductor industry, like as in Intel, Qualcomm, Nvidia, and all these companies. And like I haven't really heard corporate, probably because the semiconductor industry, like in India, obviously design and pre-silicon validation, all that part takes place. But semiconductor industry as a whole is very niche. Like, so probably in India, 500, 600 people work in, semiconductor industry. And probably that's why there's not that, cutthroat competition or yeah. So that's why, like, none of my friends really complain about that, culture that I get to see so much on LinkedIn, that the boss is so bad and all that. So yeah, so like in terms of work culture, I'm very happy in the industry. And in terms of research, like I said, it just depends. Like I wouldn't say this is good, this is bad. Both the research has different kind of motivation, and people might choose whatever they like or whatever they aspire.
Cool. I'm glad that you've sort of given an objective opinion and kept the space open for all kind of viewers to sort of not disagree with us.
Yeah, I mean, like this is very common in PhDs. They always discuss that my supervisor is so bad or my supervisor is so good. But honestly, like nobody's good or bad. It's just that you are not compatible with someone, or your aspirations or motivations are not the same as that kind of like. So I don't go by good or bad. It's not like it's not that black and white.
I like that. So to end up on a wise and positive note, I'm going to ask you for your top 3 tips for PhD scholars who are close to graduation.
Right. I think, like we discussed, have a solid plan. Otherwise, you are just going to end up nowhere, or probably doing the same thing as others do. Like, so have a solid plan, 1. 2, I would say, like, keep your expectations low. Like, as in the reality is in many places, especially in industry, they kind of don't care about your degree. Like, so they'll look at your skills, and if you fit their skills, they'll kind of treat you as as a fresher. So bear that in mind. Like, the degree doesn't guarantee you special treatment. So that. And then number 3 is, like, see the degree as a learning space or as a learning experience, and always try to understand what skills you have acquired. So, like, I worked on biosensors, right? But I knew I worked in a clean room. So I knew that I would be fit for, the semiconductor industry, people who are into semiconductor manufacturing. So a lot of people think that, okay, this is my topic of thesis, and this is what I am specialized in, and this is where I'm going to get my job. Like, they don't even go through their skills, because to build that thesis, they probably have acquired 100 skills. But they think, okay, this is my thesis title, so this is my area, this is where I'm going to get job. And then they apply, and since obviously your research project is so, like, specialized,
Narrow.
right? So narrow, so you won't get jobs exactly in that field. So try to understand the skills that you have developed, and then don't, like, just reject something because the title doesn't match with your PhD research title. So go deeper, try to understand your skills, and you will find different avenues where you can apply your skills. So these are the 3 things probably that I would love to say.
And being close to graduation, I am being a testimony of what Nivedita is saying are indeed the top 3 tips that you need when you're close to graduation. At least to clear your mental space and have, as she said, a solid plan. To be able to devise a solid plan, these realizations are important.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Nivedita, for taking out the time and doing this with me, and for being so open and honest and candid, and having this beautiful smile on your face throughout. That's pretty infectious, actually. Are there any parting thoughts that you would like to say?
No, that's about it. Like, and I like the one thing is that, like, I have, like, before doing a PhD and then after doing a PhD, what I kind of see is that people since, like, it's a 4, 5 years, 6 years journey, people put a lot of importance on it. But what I feel is that when you just see it as something where you had time to learn a lot of things, because in other degrees it's it's 2 years, 3 years you're going to finish, and but in PhD it's kind of a chance where you can look into yourself. I think people should think about PhD like that, a journey where you have time to look into yourself, grow yourself, so if you see it that way, I think all the stress, all the things that people talk about will immediately go away. Like, so I think everybody should do that as a PhD.
Great. I hope your story and your communication reaches out to all my viewers, and they like the conversation and are motivated by it.
Yeah.
I can say for Nivedita that whatever she has shared on the platform is many things that I resonated with completely. So if you are a PhD scholar and resonate with it, a big thumbs up to Nivedita for coming down and having a chat with us.
No problem at all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.